Today we're going to create a virtual tour of Edinburgh, which allows our phone to link in with another application, in this case Google Maps. The interface for this app is fairly straightforward. We start off with an image which contains a picture of Edinburgh. You could use any picture you like here, but there's one provided for you. Below that is a label with a simple piece of information for the user. Below that is a list picker. This looks like a button, but it actually brings up a list of places that the user can visit during their virtual tour of Edinburgh. Below the viewer, we have a non-visible component. This is an activity starter, which is a component that allows one application to launch another, in this case Google Maps. It's worth mentioning that when you select the activity starter, there are a number of different properties for it. So just make sure that for this app, you copy out the exact properties, right down to the combination of upper and lowercase letters. It really is quite fussy. Now, if you haven't already set the components up like this, pause the video and come back when you've done so. Now let's open up the blocks editor and create the code that's going to make our app work. Now looking at my algorithm, I can see that I need a couple of variables. One to contain a list of place names and another to contain a list of corresponding map locations. So let's go ahead and create these variables. Let's initialize a variable. Let's call it place names. And it's going to be a list variable. So I'm going to choose the make a list block. And let's add some text to this list. So the first piece of text I'm going to add is going to be Edinburgh Castle. The Royal Yacht Britannia. Now you'll see at this point I've run out of spaces for my list. But that's no problem. I just click the little sprocket here and I can add 2 new items to my list block. So I'm going to add the Scott Monument here. And lastly, the Scottish Parliament. Now, corresponding to each place name, I'm going to have a map location. So let's create a new variable for this. But of course I can just copy and paste all of this. And I'll call this variable map locations. Now the way this is going to work is that our list picker is going to display Edinburgh Castle as the first item on its list. And we're going to tie that to a corresponding Google Maps location in our map locations list. So now I'm going to use Google Maps to get the map reference that corresponds to each location. So here we are in Google Maps. I'm going to choose Share and copy the link. And I'm going to go back to App Inventor and paste in my map locations. Don't worry that you have a long address. App Inventor is absolutely fine with that. And the Royal Yacht Britannia. Now the Scott Monument. Now remember, the best view may not always be overhead. So I'm going to go straight down to Street View. Zoom out, and there we have a great view of the Scott Monument. And lastly, the Scottish Parliament. Now you could continue to add as many place names and corresponding map locations as you like, but remember they've got to tie up with each other. So items 1, 2, 3, 4 in the place names list have to match up to items 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the map locations list, and so on. I'm going to need one more variable, which is going to keep track of which position on the list has been chosen, whether it's item 1, 2, 3, 4. So going to variables, I'm going to set a new variable up. Let's just scroll that over there. And I'm going to call it list position. And I'm going to give that a starting value of 1. Now, if you've used lists or arrays in other programming languages, you may have numbered the list from 0 upwards. In App Inventor, a list position, or index as it's sometimes called, starts at 1. Now, moving on to what happens when my app starts up, when screen 1 is initialized, I'm going to set the elements which are displayed in my list picker to the values in my place names list. So when my app starts up, it's going to set the value of my list to the place names that I've defined already. Now lastly, looking at my algorithm, I just have to display the map. So when an item's chosen from the list picker, I want to note the position that's been chosen and display the corresponding link in the map locations list in the Google Maps app. So to do that, let's say after picking from the list, note the location of the item that's just been selected in my list position variable. So we need to get the list picker selection from the place names list. Once this has been picked up, we need to start up the Maps app with the corresponding address in the map locations list. So we use our activity starter to do this. And it's this one here, set activity starter.data URI, and we're going to select a list item here. We're going to select from our map locations variable. And we're going to open it up at list position. And that's the position that we've just set up here. Once that's been done, all we have to do is start the activity. And that's us, a virtual map tour of Edinburgh. Now fire up an emulator or live test on a phone. Have fun!